What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and today we're going to ask you a simple question. Should conquering commanders get buffed? Buff. If you like Rise of Kingdoms videos where we evaluate commanders, you should like and subscribe, or at least consider it, because we create a lot of those videos, and we are a sponsored creator with Rise of Kingdoms. My friends, we've got a lot to talk about here with conquering commanders. Commanders that do damage specifically to cities, because they may be overdue for a buff. And I'm showing Hannibal Barca. We know he's got limited utility in the game right now for the end game. And I'm wondering, maybe there's some things that should change here on some of these conquering commanders that will make them more effective. Let's review commander by commander. Which ones perhaps should get a little bit of a boost? And the boost specifically that we're looking for is related to cities and garrisons as a whole. And to talk about that, we've got to give a little bit of the history of defending structures and attacking structures in Rise of Kingdoms. So we're going to talk about the history, and then we're going to talk about the specific commanders. And gosh darn it, I hope you find this entertaining. So, the history. Way back when in Rise of Kingdoms history, I could have swore that garrison commanders did not work in flags. They only worked for defending cities. So that means commanders like Yi Song-ye, their talents would not have applied for defending flags, only cities. This skill over here, which is good for defending now flags and forts and all those other things, only good for cities. The context of what is a garrison back then was only your city. At some point, that changed. And when that changed, it created a little bit of an asymmetry between conquering commanders that were targeting cities and now garrison commanders, which worked for both cities and now non-cities. Because these garrison commanders got a ton more utility, whereas the city attacking commanders got, in my opinion, a little bit left perhaps in the dust. So now that garrison commanders can be used in all these different places, should conquering commanders also be used for more than just cities? In my opinion, perhaps they should. Let's look at commander by commander. We'll start actually down at the epic tier. And there's 3 epics we need to look at. The first is Baibars. Now, in my opinion, this skill is basically worthless. You're never going to be attacking a city except in the very, very early game with an epic commander. But in Ark of Osiris League, you would attack an altar, a shrine, even an outpost with a single march. And for that reason, I think this skill, No Escape, should be extended to cover cities and also all other garrison types. I think that would be a pretty fine choice for this commander. It wouldn't be broken. It would, in fact, be balanced with our counterparts, like Ulji Mundok, who's got all these garrison defense boosts, while we need some garrison attack boosts. If we were to get a look at a commander like Osman, second skill, I do not think it would be broken, and I do not think it would be overpowered if this second skill applied to not only just cities, but also to structures in Ark of Osiris League, flags, and so forth. And you wouldn't attack a flag with a solo march, but you sure would in Ark of Osiris League. Yeah, I would love to see this be extended to cover structures in Ark of Osiris League. It would give us more diversity of commanders for sure. Continuing on. Another commander that is a conquering commander that I would love to see have this skill be extended to also cover garrisons is Scipio, Conqueror of Africa, increasing damage dealt currently to other governors' cities by 7%. I think it would be totally fair if this also covered garrisons, flags, forts, and most importantly, Ark of Osiris League structures. Now, at the legendary tier, things get a little more dicey. We're going to go top down from the legendaries that I have invested in to talk about should the commander's skills also apply to garrisons, all garrisons, not just cities. And I'm going to make the argument that when we look at Hannibal Barca, our first conquering commander on the menu, that Siege, the passive skill, when attacking cities, Hannibal Barca has a 10% chance to heal a portion of his slightly wounded troops, healing factor of 1,000, will be totally legit and totally fine if this also applied to structures, specifically Ark of Osiris League structures. I think that would be very okay and a very welcome change to this commander, giving him a breath of fresh air that is totally balanced. Like, I think that is totally fine and not out of line. I think it's commensurate with the fact that garrisons and all these garrison skills work in structures. Continuing onward, let's talk about Saladin, who does a 15% damage boost when attacking cities and cannot get loot. This, I actually think, should not be extended to garrisons. I think this should not be extended to garrisons. This is a skill obviously meant for cities. It's disproportionately good because you can't get loot. And so for that reason, I actually don't think this should be extended beyond cities. It's designed for cities. That's what it's meant to be. I think this is A+ as it is. Continuing on. Taking a look at Freddy. I actually think it would be friggin' amazing. It would be marvelous if this skill, which offers 10% extra damage when attacking governor cities, PS, compared to Saladin, Saladin got 15%, which is why it should only be cities. I think this should be extended to be structures as well, flags, forts, and Ark of Osiris League. I think that would be really exceptional. It would give Freddy a breath of fresh air. It would make him competitive with a lot of the other commanders that we see in the game coming out now. And honestly, I think would be very balanced. I think there's nothing imbalanced about that extra little bit of damage, commensurate again with what garrison commanders can do. My opinion. The next commander we need to get a look at is Caesar, and I actually think Caesar would be totally transformative. It would put such a breath of fresh air into this commander that, in my opinion, should not be used for attacking structures right now. If this third skill did in fact apply to flags, forts, holy sites, and so forth. Caesar gets a 10% chance to reduce the enemy's defense by an upwards of 30%. Currently, it's when only attacking other cities. The effect lasts for 3 seconds. I would love to see this apply to garrisons, all garrisons. I think that would be pretty reasonable, and it would make this commander have a special role in Ark of Osiris that I think would be really, really great. This would be a great change. Continuing onward, Mehmed II. Now, this is a fascinating commander designed to obliterate cities, both in the first skill, which does extra damage to city garrisons, and also in the third skill, when attacking cities, normal attacks have a 10% chance to deal additional damage. That is amazing. And also in the expertise skill, which again is elevating the amount of damage that you do to cities. I actually don't think that most of this should change. I think most of this should stay the same, exactly as it is, because he's already the best commander in the game for hitting a city, in my opinion. There's almost no point bringing a different commander to hit a city. I mean, he should be one of the two you're using if you have an expertise Mehmed II available, I think. And, you know, maybe there's combinations depending on the captains that the defending player has that you might want to choose something different if you're hitting a city, but for the most part, Mehmed is going to be a part of that combo no matter what. So I think making it so that he's also absolutely unequivocally busted good for hitting holy sites and flags and forts would actually be a bad thing for the diversity of the meta in this game. I would not change that about Mehmed. If anything, you could consider making just this skill apply to all garrisons, and the extra bonuses over here and over here could just be to cities. That I think would be an okay consideration and might add value to this commander overall. But I think his role is really clear. You hit cities with this commander. I don't know the merits change otherwise. Continuing on, I think it would be very interesting if Tamaris got a little boost, such that she, when attacking currently only cities, increase normal attack damage by 30% at max and decrease counterattack damage by 10%. I think this would be totally reasonable if this was for cities and also all other garrisons. That would give Tamaris a little more tankiness, decreasing counterattack damage. Wait, is that counterattack damage taken? Why have I never noticed that? Decrease counterattack damage. Wow, you're super squishy with an Edward Tamaris combo, if that is exactly as it says it is. Anyways, I think this extra 30% should totally count for hitting all things. All garrisons, you should get the 30%. I think that would be pretty strong. And it comes with downside. Decreased counterattack damage by 10%. Maybe that's supposed to be counterattack damage taken. I'm going to have to get a clarification on that one. Because if we read it exactly as it is, it's got a little bit of upside and a little bit of downside, and it's only for attacking cities, which is interesting. Anyways, I think that should be applicable to all situations. The last commander we need to look at is Charlemagne. Now, this is a really interesting commander. I do think that it would be compelling to see the 4th skill applied to all garrisons, because it's actually not that much of a damage boost, quite frankly. And I think it would be compelling to see the 5th skill, the expertise skill, apply to all garrison types, not just cities. That would make this commander go from sort of niche or only for hitting cities to being relevant in a lot of places, just like how Wu Zetian is super relevant in a lot of places. I truly do think that when we get a look at the nature of conquering commanders, there's really an opportunity here to increase the diversity of the meta without breaking anything, quite frankly, and making it so that more commanders are viable in more situations. There would be a way to do it that would make a few commanders completely busted and over the top powerful, which we want to avoid. But if you approach it the right way, I think it would add a lot of healthy balance to the game with regard to the relative power of our garrison commanders, which is very, very strong right now, to the relative power of city attacking commanders who have a lower number of skills that are relevant in a whole bunch of contexts that you might otherwise want to use the commander. Hopefully you found this evaluation of commanders entertaining. What are your thoughts on whether or not the conquering commanders should be able to get benefits for attacking all structures? I think there's also a whole separate conversation we didn't even have here about the talents that go on these commanders and what these trees could or should look like in a context in which it's not just about hitting cities. There's some interesting stuff that you could do that would add, again, a breath of fresh air into the diversity in the meta. I'm not aware of anybody using conquering commanders right now for almost anything. Maybe some folks are using them for hitting cities. I'm not even sure. So I'd love to see that smidge of diversity, which I think would be a pretty good seed to spark some change. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom. P.S. We got new lights for the studio. Can you tell? Do I look like way different? I think it looks a lot better, but let me know in the comments what you think of these new lights. I gotta get the positioning right, and I'm no lighting expert, but the new studio, it's coming along swimmingly. We still gotta get some acoustic paneling that I think will help a lot, but anyways, hopefully you like the changes.